What's going on, traders? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be walking you through 3 stocks that I think everybody should be keeping on their watch list next week, as I do see some potential in them, especially if our market continues to stay strong and stay bullish. And I think there's a strong chance we're going to continue to see some bullish movement on a few of these stocks. So let's get into it. First stock here that we're looking at on the screen is the stock CRON, C-R-O-N. One second, there we are. So what we're looking at right now is the stock CRON, the marijuana stock. So what's interesting here is we had this, phase where we went to the pump, then we kind of came down, we bounced, we moved up again, we're pushing higher. Now you can see we're kind of breaking over this red dotted resistance. Let me kind of walk you through some things. What we see here is somewhat of an inverse head and shoulders pattern. And you can see we kind of bounced right there off that previous shoulder. And now we're moving higher. And there was resistance right at 14. You can see we kind of held resistance there slightly for a little bit. And then we broke over on Friday's trading. So what's cool about this is extremely bullish for right now. The only issue with this setup is we have this high wick at 15.13. Obviously, the stock would need to break over that to break into new highs. So we're kind of at an ideal moment for the stock CRON where we're super close to breaking into a 52-week high. There's been a lot of hype and momentum still surrounding these marijuana stocks. So I think this coming week, if CRON can continue to stay bullish, this might pick up in volume and momentum and push into new highs here. So I think this could be something good to keep on watch for a long. And not to forget about the downside risk here, but if you have been long or swing trading or long on anywhere throughout this move, you should also be a little concerned about that $15.30 high, 52-week high the stock has put in, as it might see resistance and it might in fact pull back from there. But right now, CRON is at an interesting point. I will note, if you're going to trade CRON, you should always be keeping an eye on CGC. CGC is kind of the main, most reputable marijuana stock that we have on the market. And when CGC is performing well, or if it's bullish, then we tend to see that trickle down or over into the marijuana stock CRON, C-R-O-N. When CGC is bullish or doing very well, we typically get to see some of that bullish action on CRON as well. So this is where I'm at. If CGC stays bullish, I'm pretty sure we're going to see CRON push into new highs. If CGC turns bearish, which you can see, we're starting to see some seller candles. If this turns bearish, I think that's going to put a dampen on the move for CRON, which might be one of the factors that keeps it from breaking out. So going into this week, we're definitely going to be following CRON, seeing how it starts trading, and see how it's reacting depending on how CGC is doing. If CGC starts to come down and get extremely bearish, but CRON does not, then we know there's a divergence there where CRON is no longer so attached to CGC to the point where if CGC goes down, CRON goes down. If that's not the case and CGC drops and CRON's still moving higher, then we know that investors are starting to kind of forget about CGC or not worry about what it's doing, and it's kind of CRON is starting to move on its own path, right? So that's what I'm really looking for, to see if there is a divergence between the main weed stock CGC and CRON. If there is a divergence and CRON is no longer following super closely to the direction and price action of CGC, we'll know that CRON has kind of gone on its own path, at least for now, and it might have the potential to push into new highs. Next one on the list here is AMD. Now, I'm not your biggest AMD fan or AMD stock, fan trader, but AMD is also in a point right now where it could have a very aggressive push to the upside. What we're seeing right here in this section is we're seeing a bunch of consolidation in between moving averages. It just started to curl off the 9 moving average on Friday. We have broken over the 100 moving average. Now we have sort of created this small little pennant in here. Okay, we've kind of created this little wedge, okay, a little bit of a wedge, and we're starting to break out of that wedge. If the market, again, if the market can stay bullish, again, the SPY, Dow Jones, Russell 2000, if we can continue this bullish manner going into this week on the overall market, then the bullish sentiment will turn over into stocks. And there's a strong chance that we're going to be seeing AMD push up and over this $21.50 high that it had just a couple weeks back or a couple days ago. So that's what I'm kind of following here with AMD, is to see if the market stays bullish. And if it does, again, AMD is kind of on an uptrend. We had this small little kind of pullback, little wedge in there. We're starting to break over major moving averages. Again, if you look at this price action on AMD, all the moving averages are right here, and the price action is above all the moving averages. So there's not any downtrending moving averages that it can really run into at this point. We're above all of the moving average resistance that it could potentially hit. So now it creates an opportunity where there's not really any overhead resistance other than previous price action, which would be there, in this level zone there and right here. So if the market stays bullish and we're getting some bullish movement, I think AMD is a good one to keep on the watch going into this week, as we're curling off the 9, and we might be looking at a nice kind of push and breakout over these previous highs. Don't be expecting some crazy monstrous move, but I think we're going to see some bullish action on AMD coming this week. Next one on the list is Square. Now, again, I don't typically trade Square all that often either. Square is usually a stock that I'm trading on earnings days, because Squarespace and SQ is typically sees a lot of volatility or some good volatility on their earnings days, where we see it fluctuate a couple dollars per share in any given direction. And so it tends to be a pretty good stock to trade on its earnings days. That's where you'll usually see me trading on Square. Now with Square here, Square is also interesting because it has a really good looking curl and move right here. We had this consolidation, we held the 50 and we curled up, and you can see the 9 is crossing the 50. Let me zoom in on that actually. You're probably having a tough time seeing that. All right, so look, we have the 9 just kind of crossing and curling over the 200, over the 50 moving average. That's a bullish sign. And as many of our private members know, I'm not the one to look for an EMA cross. Okay, I'm not the one that goes, oh, the moving average is crossed, it's an instant long and we should be longing. I'm not one that goes off that. There are a lot of traders that go based off of a moving average cross, going, that's when the time to get in, but the moving average cross is a delayed indicator, and the indication is delayed and it's late, so this move has already happened well before your moving average is crossed, or the move has already taken place, then they cross. So I'm not one to go balls to the walls on a moving average cross trade, but it does have that bullish look. And so this is one of those situations where, given the right circumstance, and as long as Square doesn't have any extremely negative news come out soon, or the market continues to stay bullish, CGC is going to be Square is going to be battling against this resistance, that level there, this consolidation, okay? That is what we're looking for over this $72 or $73 area. If Square can get up and over that, there's a strong chance we're going to see a little bit of a breakout over that level. As we know, there have been short sellers that probably entered here that might be long-term, or here that may not have covered up yet. So there very well could be some long-term shorts that still need to get out that have stop losses in here. And then obviously if we break over that, it can be seen as a breakout over previous resistance. So if the momentum can stay strong, the market stays strong, Square could be a stock that we see push over this level soon and have a nice pop. It's already had a really fantastic move here, which is a no-brainer. Obviously the market's been going up repeatedly, day in, day out, up and up and up. So you would assume that obviously all the stocks are going up. It's a no-brainer. But we're still at kind of a critical key resistance level, and I do believe Square is going to be an interesting stock to keep an eye on this week, as well as a lot of other ones. These are just a couple that I came across. I just really like the feel of them and the way they look. But at this current moment, there's tons of stocks out there. Like, another thing I'm keeping an eye on here, guys, is Netflix, right? Netflix had its earnings. It was just terrible, massive sell-off. I ended up shorting it in after hours for a great win. So this is another one I'm keeping an eye on. This had a massive pullback off of earnings. It's, had a really, really good run. If the market starts to roll over and the market does get back to some bearish moves, then Netflix is going to be on watch for a short, right? Netflix is high on watch for a short right now because of this great move and earnings pulling back. You know, we could be seeing some further downward move on Netflix. So that's another one I'm keeping an eye on, right? I keep an eye on tons of stocks. Apple, for one. Apple has been beaten down. We're waiting to see some reversal off this level, yet Apple is still having some trouble so far getting over its 160 resistance. So until it can get over that, there's really no long play. And at the same time, you got all these moving averages still coming down into the price action, which are going to dampen that move and try and keep it down. Another one a lot of people are really interested in and guessing on is NVIDIA. You know, when is NVIDIA fully going to go through its reverse? Well, it's starting to. It's been kind of slow, but we're right at this 50 moving average. If we can start pressing up and over some of these levels, then NVIDIA has great potential. So there's a lot of stocks that are really good, and those are ones I showed aren't the only ones. There's plenty of things out there to always be trading. But those are a couple that I liked. I hope you guys like them. I hope it maybe helps you guys, you know, decide on how you might go about this week, or maybe if you want to keep an eye on some of those stocks. So I hope that helps you guys. As always, thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.